They say Africa is free, but how free is a man who still eats from his master's table? How free is a nation that mines gold, but can't feed its children? For decades, Burkina Faso, a small landlocked country in West Africa, lived under a silent rule, not through armies, not through governors, but through money, control, and fear. Then one man stood up and said, "No more." His name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and this is the story of his war, not against a neighboring country, but against a system built to keep Africa on its knees. Burkina Faso was once called Upper Volta, a name given by colonizers who didn't care about its people, only its rivers and minerals. In 1960, France granted it independence, but it was independence in name only. The French kept control through the CFA franc, a currency printed in Paris and controlled by the French treasury. They kept control through mining contracts, where European corporations extracted billions in gold, while locals lived in huts near the pits. And they kept control through corruption, backing leaders who would obey in exchange for luxury. It wasn't slavery with chains anymore. It was slavery with loans. The IMF, the World Bank, the EU, all offered help. But help came with conditions. You could borrow, but you must privatize. You could trade, but only through their systems. You could grow, but not enough to compete. And so, year after year, Burkina Faso remained poor. Foreign aid flowed in, foreign gold flowed out, and the people stayed hungry. Ibrahim Traoré was born in 1988, long after colonial flags had fallen. He didn't see French soldiers marching through Ouagadougou, but he felt their power in every broken school, every empty clinic, every field of untapped potential. He grew up hearing stories of Thomas Sankara, the legendary Burkinabe revolutionary, who changed his country in just 4 years before being assassinated in 1987. Sankara had said, "He who feeds you controls you. Let us consume what we produce, and produce what we consume." Those words became a seed inside Traoré. When he joined the army, he saw a country collapsing, not from foreign invasion, but from internal decay. Terrorist groups attacked northern villages. Farmers abandoned their lands, and politicians backed by foreign money turned their backs on the people. In 2022, chaos reached its peak. Burkina Faso's government had fallen to corruption and incompetence. The army was divided. The people had lost all hope. Then came the September 2022 revolution, a coup led by a captain barely in his 30s, young, serious, and fiercely patriotic. When the crowd saw him for the first time standing atop a military vehicle, rifle slung across his chest, they cheered his name. Not because they knew him, but because he represented something they had lost: belief. When Ibrahim Traoré addressed the nation for the first time, there were no fancy words, no promises to the West, just a clear declaration: Burkina Faso will no longer be a slave. We will build with our own hands. We will rely on our own genius. He spoke about sovereignty, not just political, but economic and spiritual. He said independence meant nothing if your gold, your food, your electricity, and your water were controlled by outsiders. Those words shook the foundations of French influence. Within weeks, Traoré ordered all French troops to leave the country. He revoked military accords that allowed France to operate freely inside Burkina Faso. He banned French state media for manipulating public opinion. Paris was stunned. For decades, no African leader had spoken to France with such defiance. Western journalists called him radical. French analysts said he was dangerous, but the people called him the new Sankara. Traoré's battle wasn't just with France. It was with an entire system of dependency. For years, Western corporations mined gold worth billions. Burkina Faso is Africa's 4th largest gold producer, yet most of its people live on less than $2 a day. He looked at the contracts and saw theft written in legal language, so he took action. He renegotiated mining agreements demanding that 90% of gold revenues stay within the country. He ordered the nationalization of strategic mines, and when companies protested, he gave them a choice: work with us fairly, or leave. He also redirected profits toward development projects, roads, schools, hospitals, and a massive housing plan called the City of Dignity. Burkina Faso's war wasn't just against terrorists, it was against poverty and displacement. Thousands had lost their homes due to conflict. Families slept under trees, waiting for help that never came. Traoré's answer: a project to build 50,000 free homes, entirely funded by Burkina Faso's own resources. No IMF, no USAID, no European partnership. These homes would be for the poor, the displaced, the soldiers, and the farmers. Each city would be sustainable, built from local materials, powered by solar energy, and surrounded by farmland and schools. He called it the Great National Project, a model for all of Africa, and when asked how he would fund it, he said, simply, "We will use our gold. We will use what is ours." As France tried to regain influence, Traoré turned toward new allies, not just Russia but his African neighbors. Together with Mali and Niger, he formed the Alliance of Sahel states, a mutual defense pact to protect their sovereignty from foreign intervention. These nations, once separate and weak, are now united by a single purpose: to drive out neo-colonial, control and reclaim their future. The West calls it a military alliance, but for Africans it's something deeper, a spiritual awakening. They are rediscovering unity, the same unity that Sankara once dreamed of when he said, "We must dare to invent the future." But every revolution comes with enemies. France and its partners have lost billions in gold and influence. They will not walk away quietly. Suddenly, Western media began portraying Traoré as a dictator. NGOs accused his government of human rights abuses. Rumors spread of Russian influence, secret deals, and growing authoritarianism. Whether true or exaggerated, the purpose was clear: to break the image of hope that Traoré represented. And on the ground, new terrorist attacks began to rise again, suspiciously timed, brutally executed. Many in Africa believe this is no coincidence. Destabilization has always been a tool of control. But Traoré remained calm. He said, "The more they attack us, the more we know we are on the right path." He called on citizens to unite, forming local defense groups, building infrastructure by hand, and growing their own food. The movement became bigger than politics. It became a national awakening. Across the continent, something extraordinary began to happen. In Mali, people waved Burkinabe flags. In Niger, protesters shouted Traoré's name. In Chad, Guinea, Senegal, the message spread: if Burkina Faso can stand up, so can we. For the first time in decades, Africans saw a leader who didn't bow to Paris or Washington, a leader who didn't beg for aid or loans, a leader who believed Africa could rise by its own strength. And for the young generation, millions of them, Traoré became a symbol of courage. He was proof that Africa didn't need permission to be free. This wasn't just about politics. It was about pride, about reclaiming the narrative, about showing the world that Africa's destiny will no longer be dictated by outsiders. Make no mistake, this is a war, not with bombs, not with tanks, but with truth, propaganda, and power. France and its Western allies fear losing control, not just of Burkina Faso, but of Africa itself. Because if one small nation can reject the West and survive, others will follow. That's why this story matters. This is more than a national revolution. It's a continental one. A revolution built not on hatred, but on self-respect. Not on isolation, but on equality. Traoré has said it clearly. We are not against cooperation. We are against domination. We will walk with those who walk beside us, not above us. That message terrifies the old powers. Today, Burkina Faso faces enormous challenges: poverty, insurgency, and pressure from abroad. But the people believe again. Villages that once waited for aid now build with their own hands. Young engineers design irrigation systems. Teachers return to classrooms. Farmers reclaim their land. Step by step, the dream of a self-reliant Africa takes form. It won't happen overnight, it won't be easy. But for the first time in a long time, hope is stronger than fear. And it all began with a young captain who dared to ask a forbidden question. What if Africa didn't need saving? What if Africa saved itself? Every empire believes it is eternal. But history proves nothing lasts forever. Rome fell. Britain's colonies fell. And now the shadow of France over Africa is fading too. Ibrahim Traoré is not just fighting for Burkina Faso. He's fighting for the soul of a continent. And whether he wins or loses, his message will echo through generations. A slave who cannot assume his own revolt does not deserve to be pitied. This battle, between dependency and dignity, is the defining struggle of our time. And it's happening right now in the red dust of West Africa. So if you've made it this far, pause. Think about what you've heard. Do you believe Africa deserves the right to choose its own path? Do you believe no nation should own another's future? Then don't just scroll past, because the world changes when people care enough to act. Like this video if you stand with truth over propaganda. Subscribe to Untold Shades, where real stories break through global silence. Share this story, because history isn't written by the powerful. It's written by those who remember. Burkina Faso's revolution isn't over. It's just beginning. And maybe, just maybe, it's not just their battle, it's ours too. Africa will rise. Not as a colony, but as a continent reborn.